Hey guys, it's Joel, and I wanted to talk today about the Magician Archetype. That Magician Archetype in Jungian psychology is kind of that figure that has like almost a magical ability to intuit the way the world works, to understand things, to understand other people, to kind of intuit somebody's story and push them on their path. I mean, a lot of times they're kind of like a mentor or a leader. That Magician Archetype is kind of it's like the N part. If you ever take a Myers-Briggs personality test, if you get that N for intuition that's real high, that's that magician self. It's that part of you that is not trying to figure out like what can I accomplish, what can I get done, but how do I understand something? What how can I figure this out? And you get that, nobody really gets that in a vacuum. I mean, it comes from childhood where there's some belief, some feeling where you feel like somebody doesn't understand something you need to understand. They don't value something about you. They don't really want to see you in the way that you need to be seen. But there's some form of shame there where you feel like somebody doesn't want what you are, they don't get it, or they won't. And you start trying to take this self and then wrap it up and put it in gift wrap so that nobody can say no. So it becomes this poem or this beautiful meal that's artistically done, or it's a joke, you're funny. It's some way of getting them to accept that part of you. And it's one of the reasons that, like I think humor a lot of times is associated with out groups in America. I mean, you have like a period where there's like a lot of Jewish comedians, or the nerdy comic kind of stereotype that you get more in the 80s, or like they're always from some kind of subculture that isn't mainstream. Like it's not usually just kind of a wasp white guy that is, blue collar and goes to the factory and is just, I mean, there is kind of that blue collar comedy tour type thing, but the traditionally, comedy is associated with some sort of out group, and I think that's why that is that it's this that magician intuitive type. It comes from a source of shame that usually starts pretty early in life, and a lot of the blue collar comedy tour, even though it's a regular, it's a I'm a normal guy is kind of the gimmick of it. It is still coming from this place of like, I feel like that isn't allowed in America anymore, or I feel like y'all don't like what I am and I'm just going to be unashamed about it. um, so the magician archetype is, at its like most simple level, this feeling of I'm going to come into the room and I'm going to figure out the way that everything works. It's passive communication. You don't feel at some point in your life that you can have active control. You can't be assertive. You can't have actual power. So you have to go in and hold it behind the scenes by being a puppeteer, by influencing people, by maybe manipulating people if it's a little bit more on the shadow side, by communicating what you mean without saying it directly for whatever reason. Humor is a big way to do that. Art is another one. That you can make a work of art that is saying something that you're not saying, but it's very clear what you're saying when you look at this metaphor, or whatever allegorical, poem or something. So you get that as a kid when the environment that you're in isn't safe for you. It doesn't mean you're abused or neglected, but it doesn't feel okay, and you feel like I have to figure out all the time what is going on. I have to be able to, these people are not giving me what I need consistently, so I have to be able to read them. I have to be able to figure it out. I have to be 2 steps ahead of everybody. What's going on? What is it? And how do I understand everybody to make sure that I'm okay or protected? And so if you're not in touch with this, you're doing that all the time in a way that isn't healthy. It can be a great gift that helps you with business, that helps you with art, with makes you very likable, or it's easy for you to connect with people. But if you're not in touch that that's what you're doing, you have a lot more anxiety than you need, because you're going into a place that's safe, like your church or your school or your work, and you're being very quiet and being like, I got to figure out what he likes, what she likes, what this person likes, what they're all like before I'm comfortable just being myself and talking. And then once I know the room and I've got it, and then I relax and then I'm comfortable. I mean, you may not need to do that. Maybe sometimes in an unsafe place that's smart to do. But if your requirement for being safe is that you understand everybody and how they operate and what they are to a strong degree like that, look at the fact that that maybe comes from a childhood. Maybe you need a little bit more of that warrior self that just is what you are. You thrive on because the magician archetype wants certainty. It wants to understand that you understand everything. You have a plan. This is the way it's going to work. The warrior self is more about accomplishment and uncertainty. Can I go out there and get this touchdown? Can I go out there and run a 10-minute mile? Or I don't even know what a good time for a mile is. I'm probably out of touch with my warrior self. Can I go out there and do this and do that, or whatever? It doesn't want certainty. It wants the thrill of just trying to accomplish something and maybe gloriously failing. The magician is very uncomfortable with that. It thrives on having the certainty of knowing that it knows the way that everything works. It's that intuitive type. And probably the simplest way to understand this, I was talking to a friend of mine about this, and I was saying that, like you become a teacher or a social worker or a priest or a therapist, whatever, when you don't get something that you need in your family of origin, and so you're trying to fix the system. You're trying to be like, oh, I know it, like they don't see this, but I see it. I'm going to try and fix it. This is what mom needs, this is what dad needs, or this is what will keep dad from getting mad, or this is what will make mom happy. And you're taking on too much responsibility too early in life, and you're trying to fix it. But it never really works. It's not really a fixable thing. And he was like, well, my dad would get mad at me when I didn't do good in math, so why didn't I have that personality type? And I told him, because you learned that if you do good in math, you're not going to get in trouble. So you became this warrior, like, how well can I do at this? I have to be good at it. I have to get it done. If your dad gets mad at you because you don't do math, then you don't do well in math, then you're going to become obsessed with doing well in math. If your dad gets mad at you no matter what you do, then you're going to become a social worker. Or if your dad doesn't notice you, and because you're trying to figure out how to do something and there's not really a way to solve it. And then you leave that family, you maybe come to terms with that trauma, or you don't. I would recommend coming to terms with it. But you go into the world, and then you start going, wait, this is what I'm good at. This is what I know how to do. I know how to fix stuff. And the family's gone, so okay, I'll fix you and you and you, and I'll figure out how these things work. And you bring it into your work, which isn't unhealthy. But if you're not in touch with it, it can get really unhealthy really quickly, because you're mistaking the environment you're in for your family, and you're bringing all your emotion to that. So if you're a mental health practitioner, check in with that part of you. Hope everything's going well. I'm in the new office, which I really enjoyed. You should come in and see it, even if it's just a chat. So take care, and if you have any questions, leave a comment.